now.
Welcome to training for voter registration with the League of Women Voters of San Diego, and thank you for your interest. My name is Sarah O'Leary, and I'll be presenting today with Jackie Worth. We are the current coordinators for voter registration with the San Diego League. We're excited that you are interested in volunteering, and our objective today is to explain the voter registration process and tell you about our registration and tabling opportunities. The agenda for today's meeting is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the League. We're going to explain about voter registration and go through the application. We're going to talk to you about how we set up our table for registration, go over some tabling tips and tricks, and then explain voting options and then tabling opportunities. The League has been working to empower voters and defend democracy for over 100 years. The League was founded to educate, prepare, and register women once women received the right to vote. The history of the League, stemming from the women's suffrage movement, gives it special credibility. Many people appreciate the League's efforts to register voters and advocate for voting rights, especially in light of recent challenges to these rights. The League is a special organization because it is grounded in protecting democratic values and the power of voter participation. It's important for our volunteers to understand our mission, vision, and values. Our mission is to empower voters to defend democracy. Our vision is a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. And we believe in the power of women to create a more perfect democracy. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots nonprofit, and it's dedicated to empowering everyone to fully participate in the American democracy. The League, as such, the League does not support or oppose any political party or any candidate. As previously mentioned, the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan and doesn't endorse candidates. And this has been true from our inception and is a large part of why we are respected in most political circles. It's very important that we maintain this nonpartisanship and that all members adhere to the policy when conducting League events. When you do work outside the League, where you may be part of other organizations, partisan away. But when representing the League, those biases must be kept to yourself. However, we are still a political organization, and we do support policies that support voting rights and civil rights. These are based on our national, state, and local League positions. It's important to understand the distinction between our education activities and our advocacy activities, and this is explained a bit on this slide under education and then advocacy. When we hold an event or take an action, it falls into one of these two categories. Of course, we are always doing education, but we use it as a sort of term of art where we understand that we are being as neutral as possible and not trying to sway someone's opinion on an issue. So the face of the League is really tabling and voter registration training. And this is a large way that we are able to put our face out there to the public. The purpose of the training today is to prepare our volunteers to register California voters, to understand the process for registering voters. So we're going to go over the application, and to be aware of voter registration laws. The training will prepare volunteers to ensure a successful registration by highlighting eligibility requirements for registration and emphasizing how to correctly complete the voter registration card. Our registration efforts reach out to the general population, but also focus on certain populations that may be less likely to vote. This includes young voters, people who are served by our community partners, newly naturalized citizens, and formerly incarcerated voters and citizens on parole or probation. And we'll cover that a little bit more later, but note that a person who is convicted of a felony loses the right to register and vote while they are imprisoned or on parole. Once their term is completed, the person's ability to vote is restored. So citizens on parole or probation are eligible to vote. Student events are something that we really like to do as a league, and we do it as a way to encourage and educate future voters. We have participated in numerous high school, community college, and college-related registration events, and this is just an example here of our current president with a student at Olympian High School. So who can register to vote in California? The most basic requirement for registering to vote in the United States citizenship. Please note that a person is not a citizen simply because they live in California or are married to a U.S. citizen. And individuals with a green card are not citizens and are not eligible to register. Secondly, you have to be a resident of California. A voter's residence for purpose of voter registration is the address specified by the voter. A voter may have more than one residence and should register at the address they consider to be their principal residence. The courts have also determined that a homeless person may register to vote at a location they state is the place where they spent most of their time. And that person may provide a description, such as intersections or some certain point that they can say is their residence. Citizens who will be at least 18 years of age at the time of the next election may register to vote, and 16 and 17-year-olds can actually pre-register, and the county will hold their application until they turn 18 and automatically process it. Again, as previously stated, a person who is convicted of a felony loses the right to register and vote while they are imprisoned. But once their prison term is completed, the person's ability to vote is restored. Citizens on parole or probation are eligible to vote. And a person that has been found by a court to be mentally incompetent and therefore disqualified from voting may not register to vote. So as we mentioned, we do register youth who may not be 18. If we are at an event such as this and we want to take pictures, the individuals, the young people must sign a waiver allowing us to take their pictures. And here we have an example of a number of happy pre-registered voters. So re-registering a voter. A voter must re-register if they change their address, so they move and change their address, if they change their political party, or they change their name. And basically, they are filling out the application. So they're doing what one would do if they were newly registering. Individuals can check what their current registration is by going to sdvote.com. So if someone is not sure, they made changes they wanted to make, they can check that out before they fill out a new form. So now I'm going to turn it over to my co-presenter, Jackie Worth, and she's going to take you through the application itself.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty here with the voter registration form. There are two portions of the voter registration form. The upper section is used to capture the qualifications of the voter, and the lower section is to affirm that you are eligible to vote and includes space for your official signature. At the bottom of the form is a detachable receipt. This receipt allows for the voter to verify that their vote was counted. Also, at the bottom right-hand corner, there is a blue box, and this is where the name and signature of the person who assisted the registrant to complete the form must be provided. This could be you as a league volunteer. Black or blue colored pen must be used, and the print must be legible. And as a VR or voting registration volunteer, one of your most important jobs is to review the registration form after it has been completed by the registrant to make sure everything is complete and legible. You don't want delays in the individual getting registered because of errors or omissions in the form. Now we'll go through each of the 10 sections to the registration form. This information is a bit detailed, but will be helpful to you as a voter registration volunteer for the league. For sections 1 through 5, here's what is being asked of the registrant. Section 1 contains yes and no checkboxes to confirm both citizenship and age. If the registrant is under 18, they may pre-register, as Sarah discussed previously. Section 2 is used for verifying the registrant's official name, including first name, middle name, or initial and last name. The name must match the driver's license or state ID card. Section 3 verifies the identification of the voter. Birth date is mandatory. Also, the registrants must provide their California driver's license number or the number on their state ID card. Another identification option is to provide the last 4 digits of their Social Security number. The state or country where the person was born must be provided. Section 4 asks for the complete address of the primary residence where the person lives. The address cannot be a post office box or a business address, and the registrant must specify the county in which they live. As explained previously, a homeless person can register to vote, even though they lack a residence, by providing information in this section as to the place where they spend most of their time, using cross streets, landmarks, or other details. Section 5, if a person receives mail at a different location than where they live, this is where they provide that. If a person receives mail at a different location than where they live, this is where they provide that address so that the ballot will get to them. For sections 6 through 9, here is what is being asked of the registrant. Section 6 should only be filled out if the applicant was previously registered and or changed their name, address, or political party. If the applicant cannot recall their previous address, it can be left blank. Section 7 is information only. It's indicating that all registered voters will be mailed a vote-by-mail ballot. However, voters can still choose to drop off a ballot at an official ballot drop box or vote in person at a nearby voting station. In Section 8, a voter can choose a preference with one of the 6 qualified political parties in California. If the voters were to designate that they are independent or nonpartisan, advise them to choose no party. And this is because the American Independent Party, which is the first party listed, is not the same as nonpartisan independent. Registrants do not have to select a party, but choosing a party enables you to vote in that party's primary. Section 9 is optional but important. The registrant is asked for their email address and or telephone number. This is so county election officials can follow up with the registrant if he or she failed to complete the registration form or made an error. Also, the registrant will get text updates with election information. A preference for election materials in a certain language can also be indicated. At the bottom of the ballot, Section 10 is the all-important affidavit. This is where the voter affirms their right to vote. All affidavits must be signed and dated by the registrant. The information the registrant provides must be true and correct under penalty of perjury by California law. If a person is unable to write their name, they can sign the affidavit with a mark or cross. The date of execution is important, especially during periods close to the registration deadlines. As mentioned previously, there is a blue box on the lower right-hand corner of the form. This is where the individual who helped the registrant fill out the form provides their name, address, and signature. Since this is the service League volunteers in fact provide, you as a volunteer may be completing this blue box. The volunteers then tear off the bottom receipt and give that to the registrant. If they do not get a notice from the ROV prior to the election, have them call the Registrar of Voters or ROV or check online at sdvote.com or vote 411. At the end of the registration event, League volunteers collect all completed registration forms, unless, of course, a registrant wants to mail in their own form. These forms are stamped to indicate that they were completed with assistance from the League before they are turned into the ROV. And that includes forms that were set aside due to errors or because they were illegible. And this just helps the ROV keep track of all registration forms. There are special circumstances that come up, this information should help you prepare for that. We won't get into all the details, but just be aware, and you can also always consult your voter registration coordinator. The coordinator themselves may need to call the Registrar of Voters on occasion from the site just to get answers to questions about these less common circumstances. As already mentioned, you must be a citizen to register. A person may not realize how serious it is to register or vote if he or she is not eligible. In fact, it is perjury to register when you know that you are not eligible. For residency, it is important that a person is registered in only one place where they consider to be their primary home. No one is allowed to be registered to vote in two places, and these are examples when this gets a bit tricky. If a person has more than one residence, if they move to another state or another country, if a person is serving in the military, if the registrant is a student going to school away from home. These special residency circumstances are why it is important to complete Section 6, registration history, so that the person can be removed from the voter rolls where they will no longer be voting. Reasons that someone is not permitted to vote are few, but they are important to keep in mind. A person found by a court to be mentally incompetent. Also, as already discussed, a person who has been convicted for a federal or state felony. However, voting rights have been restored to those persons on parole or probation or supervision. And misdemeanor convictions do not and have not prevented or restricted someone from being able to vote. Okay, and then here are some common mistakes to look out for, and that you will find when folks are trying to complete their form. This information will really help you as a volunteer to prevent registrants from making errors, and it will also help you catch errors when reviewing their completed forms. Firstly, neglecting to check the yes and no boxes for both citizenship and age. Also, failing to provide identification information, the California driver's license number or the identification card, or the last 4 digits of the Social Security number. If they don't have this information, advise them that they can still submit their registration form, but the process of getting them registered will be delayed. Mistakenly listing the city they were born in rather than the state or foreign country. And this is a common mistake. Failing to identify the county in which they live. This is an important detail to make sure they receive a correct ballot. Neglecting to provide prior registration information if the voter has moved or changed parties. This helps election officials protect against individuals voting more than once. Filling out a form that is illegible and or with crossouts, in which case it is best to have the registrant redo the form. And submitting a form without signature and the date. Also, it is important that the signature is their official signature. In other words, that the signature that appears on other documents, other official documents. The local election officials cannot process unsigned affidavits. You will have some voters, particularly younger voters, who may want to register online, and this is great. However, you want to make sure, however, to encourage them or make sure that they follow through, you can encourage them to do this while they are visiting you at the registration table. There are two sites that you can suggest they go to. One is the Secretary of State's California registration site, registertovote.ca.gov. The other is Vote 411. Here are two voter registration coordinators. Here are the two, and we are in fact the same individuals that are here helping you with this training, Sarah Leary and Jackie Worth. We're registering voters at an event at the University of San Diego in October 2025. Keep in mind there are like three main goals for all of our tabling events. They are registering voters, providing voter education and information, and getting the League of Women Voters brand out there. We have lots of materials to make these voting registration events a success. We have several kits, which is basically a backpack of materials that we keep in a storage facility. The voter registration coordinators have access to the facility and typically pick the materials up, do the inventory, and bring the materials to the registration event site. So most volunteers won't need to worry about this. But volunteers should be aware of what's in the kits. Each kit should have everything the team needs. Items in each kit are handouts, brochures, posters, QR codes for registering or accessing voter information. The latest materials produced by the Registrar of Voters for any upcoming election are among the materials included. There is also a canopy and in the storage unit, a dolly and collapsible cart and a table. We're fortunate that most sponsors of events will often provide tables and chairs, and that helps a great deal. A league banner and sign is also kept in storage to help direct traffic to the table and is important for our branding. Here are some tips for engagement that we've developed over time, numerous tabling events, and because of many enthusiastic league volunteers who have offered their input. We, as representatives of the League of Women Voters, are positive, welcoming, and friendly. We try to convey that civic engagement can be fun, even during politically wrought times. We wear a smile, a name tag, and a League of Women Voters T-shirt if these are available and you have one. Swag also does help draw people in, so we provide some swag. We also encourage you to have a one-liner or question to get attention of those that pass by. Something as simple as, do you know if you're registered to vote, or have you heard of the League of Women Voters? Before you volunteer an event, it helps to do a little research and ask the organizer, what is the event? Who will be attending? What are they interested in? You can even check our league calendar and website for upcoming events or issues that this group may be interested in. Finally, we encourage you to take photos for our newsletter and our social media channels. If it's more of a general group shot in a public place, there shouldn't be an issue. But if it's a photo of individuals, we ask that you ask for permission first. And for children and teens, as already said, you will need a signed waiver that is available in the kit. You will get the occasional heckler, especially these days when there is a lot of political sensitivities. So always remember that the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan and its mission is to empower all voters. Rule number one for volunteers, do not engage. Do not get into discussions regarding political parties or positions. Smile, ask them if they're registered to vote or if they want to learn more about the League. But if they're not interested or if you feel uncomfortable, move on to the next person. Now I'm going to give it back to Sarah to talk more about voting options.
So the County Board of San Diego Board of Supervisors directed the Registrar of Voters to transition to what's called the Voters' Choice Act in October of 2021. And as mentioned before, all voters receive their ballots in the mail. They may vote at home and put it in a regular mailbox. They may drop it off in an official ballot box, often seen at libraries, or at a vote center. And vote centers are where they've taken the place kind of precincts. They're no longer assigned polling places for people. People can vote at any vote center. Vote centers are open 4 days before and on election day. And some locations will actually open even earlier than that, but that is dependent upon the election and what is posted by the Register of Voters. Vote centers allow in-person voting, same-day voter registration, ballot drop-off, voter registration updates, and replacement ballots in case someone has damaged or lost their ballot. If individuals decide to vote in person at a vote center, they should take their ballot with them. If they don't have the ballot, they will vote provisionally, and then it will be determined that they've only voted once before their ballot is counted. Voters may also sign up for what's called ballot tracking, called Where's My Ballot at sdvote.com. And this is a way to track that your ballot's been received and counted. So hopefully now that you've heard a lot about the voter registration process, you would like to volunteer to register voters. And I'm going to try to walk you through our process for signing up. First of all, you'll go to our website, which is lwvsandiego.org. You can see in this slide, if you click that link, then you'll come to the opening page and you go to where it says Take Action in one of the top columns and click on that and then go to where it says Voter Opportunities. Once you click on that, it's going to take you to another page and you go all the way down to where it says See Available Slots at the bottom of the page and click on that and it will take you to the screen that you're going to see next called Search for Opportunities, where you can see what's available in terms of voter registration events. And this page is also a page where people can look for other league-related volunteer events like volunteering at candidate forums and speakers bureau or for Vote 411. So if you put in, you can click the category voter registration, and then you can put in a date range, say from today for the next month or two, and then hit search. It will take you to what opportunities are available. It'll then take you to this screen where it will show a range of opportunities. And on the far left, above the opportunities, there's a little arrow-like thing. And if you click on that, it expands and explains what the opportunities are more. So if you clicked on it, you'd find out, for instance, PolitiFest. What is that? When is it? What are the times available? Then if you go to the next screen, you'll see that if there's an available opening for a volunteer, there'll be a green button that says volunteer, and you can click on that and it will take you to a screen where it will show what the options are in the next screen. It'll show current open slots for volunteers, and you can click on the date and time. There's often more than one slot in a registration event. There might be 3 or 4, depending upon how long the event is. You click on that, and then you need to be sure that you go down and you save and submit what you've chosen. And it's very important that you do the save and submit part, because if you don't, it won't save what you're choosing. If you've done this correctly, the system should send you an email very quickly that says you've signed up for this event. If for any reason you're trying to do this and you don't get an email that says you've signed up, please reach out to Jackie or myself. We know that there are sometimes issues with it and it's a lot of screens to go through, and we don't want anyone to be put off because they couldn't get through all these screens. So we thank you very much for your interest in voter registration, and we look forward to seeing you soon. And please reach out to Jackie or myself with any questions or issues you might have related to voter registration. Thank you.